lesson planning and putting a class together. And or if you just want to make sure you're on the same page, or you're curious to know how someone else does it, this should give you a little taste of that. So this is for the spring of our
it's 2024. I have 23 on there.
It's okay. We're living the life. I was like, wait, what year am I in? But we're still going to be meeting Wednesdays, 10 to 2:30 at the same location, which is Cafe College. For those of you who are new, it's kind of centrally located near downtown, a wonderful facility. And it starts January 17th. And so we really want to kind of stress the importance of having our parent as teachers, right? It helps share the burden, spread some of the wealth of knowledge that we have as a group. And it really makes your learning environment a dynamic learning environment, engaging people, bringing diverse perspectives and energy into the program. This is also how we start with inclusivity, teaching our kids by seeing and doing that people come from different walks of life. They look different, but they have a lot to give, right? And then it creates connections outside of our classroom within our group, but also expanding our network as individual families coming together as a community. There's two kind of models. All parents are asked to teach, So there's a lead teacher. That's one teacher that plans and executes the lessons. We always make sure to assign an assistant teacher. That's just helping students within the class and with activities as needed. And that's including from just sitting in the back of the room if they've got it, and helping out if they need some supplies that they didn't bring into the room, or something like, I know right now we don't have sinks in the classroom, so just stepping out to refill something if we're doing a little bit of art, take pictures and short little videos of what's going on, or even just helping pass out papers. But also if there's some kiddos that maybe are in a lesson and need a little bit of extra assistance one-on-one, they can provide that. Then there's the co-teachers, and that's where both teachers plan and execute the lesson. So they can teach together in tandem or alternate weekly. So in one session, it can be both teachers, helping share the burden of teaching, or it can be like alternating every other week. With this model, you may be asked to teach more than one class as needed. We are having enough parents, I don't see that happening, but just so that we're aware, because part of what the struggle is on having the co-op and then it being kind of a small grouping of us, not like 50 families, right, is that we have to make sure that we're providing enough classes for each block and to make it meaningful for the kids. So it just depends on what our needs are. But I think both models are great. And especially if you're uncomfortable teaching alone. I know some of us are just dipping our feet into the water teaching other people's kids, right? So it can feel like a bigger hurdle than it is. Believe me, if you're teaching your own kid, that's the hardest battle, right? I think it might perhaps be easier sometimes to teach other people's children because they are usually much nicer to you. So that's something to keep in mind.
So just to clarify is that right now all of our classes are being taught with a lead teacher and an assistant teacher, but we do have the option if you wanted to team up with somebody and co-teach. That is also.
Okay. So each class should incorporate culture, right? We're celebrating diversity and incorporating a lot of perspectives, right? And in this, we also want to be very mindful and purposeful in looking at the materials we use and what perspective it comes from. So that's like Black, Brown, and Indigenous experiences, making sure that minority groups are not displaced in their own narrative. And I think that's important to be aware of. And so even just thinking about like women's rights, making sure you have a huge women's perspective, because sometimes we don't think about even that situation, but just that it's inclusive to whatever group you're studying and whatever material you're presenting and the perspectives that are used, okay? Collaboration, incorporating group projects, discussion, activities together. That's what's fun about co-op, is it gives each of the kids who are attending a chance to work with someone besides their mom partner, or if they have siblings, their sibling partners. They're able to work with others and get a feel for that activity, but also get inspiration from their peers that don't live in the home with them. It needs to be, we were thinking to try to be creative, right? And you really want to tap into getting our kids to like use their imagination, be innovative in the way they think and in the way they kind of like address issues and express themselves, right? I think that's also getting out of box of your comfort, for how you may teach, or allowing the students to experience something maybe that they can't at home. So like example that we did this past round, the first 6 weeks, was we had a wax museum, right? And it was cool. The kids wrote their own, they did the research, they wrote their little speeches they were going to give, they dressed in character, and they presented to an audience, right? So they brought their own thoughts and creativity to it that others could appreciate. And that experience is hard to do at home. It's not as fun for them to put on a whole show and just be showing mom and dad and siblings as it is to show their peers. But one of the things they did in that process was practice their speech, and their classmates were able to give them positive and some negative constructive criticism. And that was really awesome to see, because kids were able to say, hey, it was really good, but you're going to have to look up more at your audience so we can understand what you're saying. Or in the back, I can't really hear you. So it sounded or it looked good, but I wasn't sure what you were talking about. But having that feedback and interaction was really great. And seeing the end product was awesome as well. And then critical thinking. How do I think out steps, right? How am I engaging the environment around me? And how am I governing myself? I think that's something we see in society now, where people have trouble with problem solving and critically thinking about things. And we want to provide our kids with opportunities to practice that and to do it with others, so they can see all the variety there might be in how you answer things and how you analyze things. Okay, so we're incorporating culture in lots of ways, and I talked about that a little bit. So that's diverse literature. So who is doing the writing? When you talk about the slave experience, there are slave narratives that are written by them or dictated by slaves. So that is something you want to pull into, right? If we talk about internment camps, then you're wanting to get it from the perspective of those who were interned, not just whatever the mainstream society was at that time, but you want to make sure that we have diverse literature, that the people who are writing the literature are also diverse, culturally relevant, making sense to go with the topics. We want to try to get out of our box and look at global perspectives. We want to look at historical perspectives. You want to think about critical analysis, especially of the media. I think we live in a time where a lot of thoughts are pushed at people, and people have their own agenda. That's not necessarily bad, but people do not use the critical thinking skills to really analyze what's the purpose of this, and do I agree with the purpose, and do I trust the source of information? We love to see videos and pictures, inclusive language, so we are respectful of everybody, right? The teaching resources as well, but also you want to have some written lesson plans. In writing your own, you don't have to start from top to bottom. There are great sites out there that we'll talk about, but you do kind of want to make sure that you're reviewing everything. So like when we say write your own, we don't mean like, oh, you have to have invented the wheel. We mean you internalize it so you can teach it to the best of your ability. Okay. Classes that work for co-op and that are, so you want to think about things that are hard to teach at home. So I did like forensic science, CSI kind of exploration. It was really fun. A lot of I ordered the workbook and then added to it and brought some activities in, but they're the kind of things that are not really that fun to do alone. They say, with your partners, everybody take your thumbprint and analyze your thumbprint. It's not as fun just doing it with Kia and Olivia. Olivia is my daughter. So activities like that, things that benefit from an audience. So that's like the public speaking, things that ask the kids to be collaborative, and then hands-on activities. If they're building something, putting something together, even if they're doing like a craft, those kind of activities are fun, especially when you're working with your peers. So inquiry-based, STEAM, entrepreneurship, and unit studies, that's kind of our categories. There isn't really a limit, right? If you look at this, there's almost nothing that I could think of, and I was trying to when I was looking at this earlier. I was like, well, what could not fall in these categories? So basically everything is open. I think the point is that whenever you're thinking of a class, you want to think about what is the point of the skill, right, that you're teaching the kids. Like sometimes we think of things that are just fun, but maybe we haven't isolated what skill am I teaching them? What information are they learning? How does it grow the students? I think that's more of the point, is that the classes should grow the students in some kind of way. It can be in a variety of ways or in one main way, but most classes will fit, and you just want to think, where does my class fit in? Okay, so how do you generate ideas? What would you like to learn more about? And I always start with Olivia, asking her lots of questions. What are you good at? And so this is you as the parent teacher, right? What are your children interested in? And what works in a group? So I think all of those things are things you want to consider when you're generating ideas. I always say you pull for your strengths. I tend to, up until now, I've done just social studies because I was a social studies in real life, right? A social studies teacher, but it's also what I really like learning about, all kind of social studies. So from your histories to your geographies to your political sciences, I love it all. I'm branching out because I'm finding that there are things that I'm enjoying teaching, because now I'm doing everything for my daughter. So you kind of want to start with what you enjoy and what you like to learn about, and that's easier than to develop around that. Research and evaluate. You're looking for a curriculum, choosing topic based on access, affordability, and your available time. Some things are more intricate or require more up study from the parent teacher. So if you have a lot of time, then maybe that's something you choose. But if you maybe have minimum time as far as preparation between each week, then you want to choose something that may be a little bit more plug and play. So for me, if I'm really busy, I choose, like I did a Harlem Renaissance unit. It worked out really nice. The kids enjoyed it, but it actually was very easy for me. But that's because I was a social studies teacher. So I really just went back to things that I had already taught and found resources that I already knew were easily available, and I worked that way. Whereas this forensic science has been challenging more for me because I need to make sure that I'm reading everything, I'm watching videos, learning so that I'm giving them correct and accurate information. Brainstorming and organizing. This is gathering ideas for the projects and resources. Consider your supplies, right? If the students need to contribute, what would that be? And potential presentation format. So like, that's more for like how you're going to give the information. We're not opposed to a variety of things. So hands-on, some worksheets, videos, pictures, having students create things. I think that what makes the class fun is when you use a variety of means to give information to kids. And then it gives them a little bit of experience in all of those things, because we want our kids to be able to function in any environment that they move on to. Okay. So what do? I choose a topic I'm interested in, like we talked about, right? And it's easier to teach and it's more engaging for the students. I go to Google and I go down a Google rabbit hole for resources related to the topic. I try to gather way more than probably what I need. And then I get caught in that thing. Like I go on Teacher Pay Teacher and it'll be like 8 units on the same thing. And I really feel like I want to buy all 8. I don't buy all 8, but I'm going to be honest, I do sometimes buy 2. And then I'm like, oh, I could have stuck with this one or that one, or I use pieces from both. But like you can go down a rabbit hole, you collect information. I give myself like 3 days and I say, okay, Kia, you're cut off. You have enough information, right? Then I map out my class. I look at a week by week list of topics for that class. And then I'm deciding like, these are the most important topics. And so this is what I have time to get to. The real truth is that most of the things we learn started at surface layer the first time we're introduced to it. The next time we get a little bit deeper, there's just no way that any unit is taught completely in one semester in anywhere, no matter what kind of setting you're in. So just remember that. And then I match my topic and my resources. So then I'm adding my books, my activities, workbooks, videos for my week-to-week thing. I look on Amazon, San Antonio Public Library, because I'm trying not to spend all my monies. And then of course, I'm buying my stuff from Teacher Pay Teacher when I'm matching my resources. And so that's kind of the framework that I always use when I'm building my classes. And I think it's important for us to do that. It also just translates to a smoother classroom. And some of this is intuitive and we kind of know it, but it's also good to just kind of review and think about how I'm doing it. The biggest difference, I think, is that when you're home, you start off with this idea, you branch down here, and you and your kid sometimes can travel down like a road that's like way different from what you started on, but you can still wrap in the skills and the things that you know you need to do. That can be harder to navigate when you're with the group of students, because you really do kind of have to keep them more managed and on task, because it is a group of them, and your end goal is to have this knowledge by the end of this session and this complete knowledge by the end of all, 7 weeks or however long it is that we have. So that's where it can be like the difference when you're planning, is that you just want to make sure it's a little bit more concrete when you're planning for the co-op as versus how you might do it at home, which at home it can be free flowing in a way that it's harder to do in big groups or bigger groups, even though we're not a huge group. They're 45-minute classes. It says 6-week sessions, but I think these are 7, right? 2 7-week. Jen?
We need to get the calendar down exactly, because at some point we're probably going to have a spring break week, because I think doing 14 weeks solid without any break will be a lot. So we'll set up the exact schedule soon.
we have to figure that out, but it'll be 6 or 7. You want to start? I start, and I don't think everybody has to start this way. Sometimes I start with a video and a thought-provoking question. I also start sometimes with an activity or a mystery. I'm doing forensic science and CSI type things, so it falls in that category. And then it's like when you're doing the direct instructions, like giving them information directly about the lesson, the core of the information. Sometimes you don't have to do that piece when you have your hands-on activity and then their guided practice, because kids can be experiential learners, right? So when you're looking at this, we are not in any way saying that it has to go by this. If you want to start off with something different, where you have kids coming in and they're tinkering with something until they're figuring out what the goal of the activity is and then working their way through it, that's awesome. And you've achieved that same thing, right? You got their interest, they're working and they're doing the instruction, but then the process is teaching them whatever it is, the goal of the lesson. And so you can do that. But this is kind of the layout of how lessons generally are taught in group settings, right? And you just want to add variety, or if something good is working, you keep with it. But I always suggest add variety, because I think it's also good for our kids to learn in a lot of different mediums, because life gives us a lot of different ways to collect information. I always tell my kids, because I work part-time with high school students, that you will figure out the best way you learn, and that's important to know, that the how you learn and the best way you learn, right? But you still may have to learn other ways, because when you go to work, or you're working in a group, or you're putting on an event, how you learn and function may not be the best fit when you're working with others, right? Or it may not be how the information is given. I've taken classes, especially in college, and the professor, the way they teach is not my learning style, but I really still wanted the information, right? And I tell the students look at me in high school, they give you a look, but I'm like, no. In college, when I was studying stuff in political science, it was exciting to me. So you may not teach in the style that is best for me, but I was like, oh, you're an expert in your field. You've written this book. You've had these experiences. I still really wanted the information from you, so that I think it's good to have a variety of ways of giving them information, because if they learn to navigate it, then they'll be successful. So I think you can be consistent in how you structure your class. It helps, especially when you're working with a group of kids, it helps them to know that we usually start off sitting down, or we always work in groups. Kids will start coming in and be like, oh, we work in groups in here a lot. Do we want to put the tables in 4s? That just helps us, right? You want to be creative and try to do hands-on, but don't get bogged down in it. If you're going to be doing something that is maybe information heavy and a lot of discussion, right? So like maybe a book study or something like that, you may not have a whole lot of hands-on, but you still have a whole lot of engagement, and that's what matters, right? Plan out your lessons and being prepared, of course, do samples, experiment. So Olivia got a lot of, she'd be like, oh man, I can't do this activity because I know the answer to who committed the crime, right? Well, yeah, okay, Olivia, you're just gonna be my assistant, because she lives with me and she's the perfect age for me to experiment on, to then go and then have a group of people doing it, right? So you just kind of want to test it out, try it out. Sometimes I make my husband be my tester. I'm like, pretend like you're 12. Was this fun? Be flexible. And then it's okay if unexpected things happen. We're all people. Life happens. People get sick. Events pop up. So you just let us know, because it happens to all of us. So if there has to be a day where you're like, okay, look, I have this is not going to work. We'll play a game, or we'll do a focused activity this way. That's fine too. We just want to be flexible. For your information on your class proposal, we are asking for the class description. We're asking to see some of the activities or get understanding of them, curriculum details, like where you're pulling information from, maybe your week by week topic list, materials you might need. That helps us help you. If we're like, oh, like for instance, if you need magnifying glasses, I have 2 sets now because I couldn't find my little ones and I went and bought 4 big ones, right? Or if you need rulers, we have 8 of those. We have different supplies, or we can say, hey, don't go get them. We'll ask the big group, and you'd be amazed what some of us have just sitting at home in closets or the garage, and we can save on things like that. Like we did an activity with hula hoops, and people had hula hoops. So different people just like, oh yeah, I have them, I can bring them in, right? Thinking about your what age group or category. So if you have a younger kid, but you really would like to teach, if you have an 8-year-old, but you really feel like, ooh, this would be a good activity, and I would like to be in the room with the 12-year-olds doing this, you just put that down and tell us the category, because we want to also for it to be a fun experience and a growing experience for all of us as well. And I keep saying moms, but if we have dads, I don't think we do have any, but if we have dads too. So parents. Okay, so the class proposal form, you're going to submit one for each class, and those are due December 1st. If you are like mapping out the class, and let's say you know exactly what you want to be, but you don't have exact resources, just give us as much as the information that you have, and then kind of as when you have more, let us know. It also helps to have double eyes when you're looking at and Ashley's really good at this. When you're looking at curriculum, sometimes curriculum from anywhere, whether it's like teacher pay teacher or, you know, somewhere else, can have bias or not be as authentic as we want it to be. And we don't always know. So like for me, if something is wrong scientifically, this is why forensic science works, but I'm not going to do physics. I don't know that I would know right away. It's not my area, even if I'm enjoying reading. And I don't know how much research I need to know to catch something, but maybe one of us will, right? Also, like just realizing like, oh, look, they made this look diverse, but the staffing that wrote this or the group that it came out is not very diverse at all. And that might just be something one of us knows or one of us notices because we've been spending a lot of time thinking about this in particular that someone might miss, right? And I hope that we all do this for each other, because like I may be really great in one area and someone else may be great in another. And as we grow, we would love to see like more of our parents participating in this part of the process too, and giving great suggestions and resources. Okay, so their sites are places like Teacher Pay Teacher, right? There's I am a co-op teacher and other Facebook groups. Sometimes finding things that are diverse are hard. I actually do start at some of the wholesale places that maybe don't look as diverse or interesting, just to get the idea of like what I want to do. And then I go out and find the kind of resources I want. So I might use someone's whole template, but use none of their resources because I really like what you did. But like, if I'm doing art and you didn't have women, people of color, and all kind of backgrounds, I might just use how you presented it and what the activities were, but I fill in my artists, right? So I always encourage that. Online and in person, librarians, I mean, I'm gonna talk them up. They're wonderful if you go to them with different topics, and they're gonna always give you more resources than you can use, right? And if you tell them your age you're looking at, I mean, and they enjoy it, right? So I always say they're like a secret resource that most of us just walk by. We get on the computers looking up stuff, pulling books, when they could probably give us like what we're looking for and give you hints about, oh, try this, and we can get this book to you, right? Chat what is it? Is it
That's me? I ended up doing Chat GTP, but I have used it for specifically what you're saying is adding in diversity to things, like finding a curriculum that I like the idea of the class, but I need a list of a certain kind of artist or quotes from something. So it helps me get organized, or like if you're wanting to build, like for example, Ariel did a whole class on Gullah Geechee culture, which she's from, but she was like overwhelmed with where to start. You can go in there and be like, make a 6-week lesson plan on this, and you may not use all of it, you may only use half of it, but it helps to get your ideas going and to organize so stuff doesn't feel so overwhelming. So I just wanted to put that in there. I know people have different ideas about AI, but I really like ChatGPT for that reasoning. It's not pulling in facts, it's for generating ideas. So that's my little plug for that.
It is good. And the stuff that Jen has come up with, it's excellent. I am like one of those, I've been around my husband too long. I'm like, the robots are coming to get us. But we're not in a movie, crossing our fingers that we're not in a movie. So it is a really good resource. There's Canva, which has and Canva keeps expanding from where it began, but it has all kind of resources, all kind of templates that are already there, and it will help you make things pretty and beautiful.
I was going to mention with that, I guess, for those who haven't come to co-op yet, where we are, all of the rooms have screens with internet access and a computer, so we don't bring our own laptops and plug them in, but you can log into your Canva account and then sign out. You could log into a Google Drive account and sign out. So the same way like we're using a presentation here, we're pretty often using that with the kids. For Kia's CSI class, she had really interesting forensic science YouTube videos that helped the kids see it, where she would teach a little bit, show a little piece of the video, and they would talk about it. So when you're building your class, just so you know, we have access to those screens to help. And it's super, super easy to do.
Yeah. And then there's For the Culture's Google Drive. And I think I'm going to wait to the end to try to share my screen to kind of show you what's available. And then we'll be sharing the links to that once I get it.
I'll work on pulling it up on my end right here so that if you can't share it, I can share it from mine.
So the class idea, unit studies on specific cultures or places. That's always good. A time period. Book study. We haven't done a book study as we did a book club in the big homeschooling group, but we haven't done a book study in co-op, but I'm all for it. I would love to see that. Art classes, business or financial skills. We are doing the pop-up market, so that's cool. Basic computer skills, a semester project, hands-on science, life skills, public speaking. These are just ideas. This is not the only list, but things that fit in here, and plus, and things that you think of. I know some of us have experience in maybe design or fashion design. Some people may have experience with math activities, just anything that you want to bring in. Like I love government stuff, so I'm kind of looking at some of that kind of stuff. So anything you can think of could be a class idea.
The other thing to mention here that I forgot to put on here is that we've got 3 classrooms, and one of them is a computer lab. Yeah. And so that is why I taught the Google workspace basically class, and Jen is doing the newsletter class. So if you have a class suggestion for any age range that could utilize that room, that would help as well.
Oh. Okay, so December 1st are the class proposals due. The classes are going to be announced December 8th. So everybody's putting in a class. That's going to give us more classes than that can be taught with the breakdown of the kids. So we'll look at them and figure out, what works best and how we can fit it together, because we do have the 3 groups with 3 different age ranges. Detailed class syllabus will be January 7th. Then the open house is January 10th. And the first day of co-op is January 17th. Okay, so if you need help, don't be shy, ask for help, reach out to our co-op leadership team. That's me and Jen and Ashley, but also any of the parents who've been part of the co-op and have taught class. They've been successful at it. They can tell you pitfalls to avoid, but also great things that they liked. You can always send us an email at our For the Culture co-op@gmail.com, all run together, and we try to respond pretty quickly. Is that okay? Oh yeah, we have the handbook. So before we do questions, let me see if I can share it. So because I did want to show you all a couple of items. Let's see if I press it. Oh, let's see. So are you all able to see what I'm looking at?
Yes, we see your drive.
It's so weird because I cannot see you all. So it's weird. Okay, so this is the drive, and I'll be sharing with you. So what I did was there are categories. All of them don't have a lot in them, honestly, but some of them have more than others, and it's just kind of like jumping off to give people idea. But I wanted to click into like science, and then hopefully it changed. The screen changed. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So like I put what the topic is, and then I like to put who added it. And as we open and expand, you all will be also able to add. So I want to show you, this is what my class that I'm doing now, which is the CIS using science to solve crime, right? And I just dropped anything that I thought might be beneficial. So the timetable, and I think I can change it this way. Did it change to the timetable? It's so weird. Okay. So you'll see where I did a description. Students will interpret the body language displayed by a suspect, the activity and how it works.
I didn't
Then
know.
I have the last column is the resources need. Is this showing up for everybody? I don't know if I heard a question.
We're still seeing the list of your files. Did you open the timetable?
Okay,
I see your mouse right there, but
okay, now?
no, I think what you did is you probably just shared this window. Is it opening a new tab?
Oh, I see what
Instead
you're
of the whole
saying. So
thing?
let me do this. I will go back and I figured it out. So let's see. Time. There you go. So now you should see it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yes.
So I have the lesson and just a description of it, right? Students will interpret the body language displayed by suspects, or you can see that in the first column. The activity, right? Oops, I didn't mean to type. And then this general opener about the class, review the syllabus, review scientific method. So I just kind of put what I'm gonna do, what it is. In pairs, they're gonna do this. For student volunteers to tell stories that can be true or lie, right? And I selected them before they came up. And then the whole class is debriefs, right? And we talk about body language. This is the workbook that it was based on, and then my scientific method chart. You all, I do want to do a disclaimer, and so I'll put my face back up here when I do my disclaimer. Don't look at what I have there and be like, what? I am a teacher who was probably an over planner when she was in the classroom. And I literally write full on lesson plans for my one kid who's homeschooling for the whole year. And I can't stop it. So I don't even try.
I'm not that kind of homeschool moms. I love that for you.
Yes. And so I don't think you don't need to, you see how detailed mine was? You do not need to do that to yourself, right? But I am telling you that sometimes when you're doing stuff, right, it is a little bit easier to have it. So you may have where I have the lesson and what it is, you have one thing, you might have like one or two in the activity, two little dots, and then just where you pulled the material from, right? And that would be more than enough, okay?
So Kia, are you saying the 1A is that one class period and then 1B is the next class period?
Yes, because 45 minutes is not long. And what I found with the activities is that I can't get through the whole thing. So they learn about it, they see a video or they do a little activity, and then they solve the crime because they give them like mini crimes the next class period based on what they learned, right? And so that's how you see the 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and I just keep going like that, right?
It's very planned, but also you've got, that's a little paragraph for a whole class period. So yeah, we don't need a script. I think Ashley, yours was the artist you were going to do, the activity, a video, the supplies you needed. So it's not.
Exactly. Now, I do think like another way that would be when I did create this, I was like, okay, kid, are you really gonna go like 100 miles per hour? Is there a real reason to do it that way? So I think sometimes like I said, I'm an over planner, so I did try to simplify it so that if anybody else wanted to kind of see what I was doing and follow it, then this is my simple format. And I just made it pretty in Canva. Don't be impressed. It really took 3 minutes because this is what their page is. But with this way, all I did was the example of the classes that they're going to be doing. So general skills that they're going to do, and then just each one: forgery, burglary, petty larceny, right? And just a little description of what they're doing. So like shoe prints, soil samples, which we didn't get to because we ran out of time, but like just what I thought would be happening so that if anybody went into the class or was looking at what is this about, they would get an idea. So this is my simplified version of it. Okay. I think that either way works, but I just want you all to kind of get an idea of like what it is I do. So what I have for you all and I'm going to go back to if I can get back to it, when you're looking at these examples. And so now I'm going to click under the water cycle and I'll show you this. This is just for you to have a resource. So then I was like, well, what would be helpful to someone if they were trying to create a class or didn't have an idea? So I was like, ooh, the water cycle. I was thinking the lemon group, that's our youngest group, that would be the perfect one for it, right? So I went out there and I was like, I just created this. This is not at all a full out plan. This is just resources that I thought might be helpful in you all creating your own if somebody wanted to do it. So there's a book list, right? The movie All About the Water is just a little video. It's not a movie. Water cycle. So I put a couple of videos and links so you could look at them. I have a video list. Let's see. Some of this I'm not.
You need to make a folder, maybe, Kia, to move the classes that have already been done into a folder, because what Kia's been doing is collecting. Like, you're welcome to go and find your own class. You don't have to choose from this, but if you're interested, again,
right.
If you kind of skip some of those steps, you could just go through it.
Right. And I didn't really, so I think only mine, and it's labeled that way, is one that's already been taught. I didn't add in some of the other ones, but I did pull a bundle that was free because I was like, ooh, I have some points and there's always free stuff on Teacher Pay Teacher. But between like some of the things that I'm owed and what's free, I pulled some stuff down. So this is just actually from Teacher Pay Teacher, and it'll tell you the unit, it gives you the directions. And can you all see this as I'm kind of scrolling? But it gives you the breakdown, and so you could use this to really make your plans off of, right? So this is just ideas. And so I just want to give you all an example of what you'll find when you get in the drive. You can look under each topic and there should be samples. Now, some topics like science have a lot. It's actually easy to find science. Social studies, which is my thing, I have a lot of starters for social studies. So like, if you wanted to teach this is a cool topic, here's a cool book, and here's a website that might be interesting, right? And then you just have to go down your own rabbit hole, but it's a good starter place for you. I did also want to just show, and then this is probably my last thing, and you all can ask me questions or just be thinking about things, is that there are like some good things to look at when you're looking at the websites, right? So a lot of places will kind of tell you what they are, right? They'll tell you who they are and what they are. And so I think it's important to like pay attention to like what the website says about what's important to them. So I just wanted to show you if I can get back to it because I've opened 100 screens. And so I started this and I haven't finished it, but I have a couple others to add. So we'll just look at this one website and you'll get an idea of what it is you kind of want to be looking for when you're looking at, it's the language they use. And so with this website, it's called Teaching People's History, right? And so it's kind of very inclusive language right from the beginning, because what they're saying is they're teaching about the people from their perspectives, right? And so they talk about like water and environmental racism and things like that. And I think it's important to kind of look at what an organization is all about in order to kind of decide if this is something you want to use, right? And I was just, this is a really good website. I think it's interesting how they put things together, but they even have like the teaching materials that are right there If it loads, I don't know if it'll go to it because, okay, it changed, right? And it has the time periods. And then when you get into it, it uses the perspective of those people that are most impacted by these events, right? And I think that's what's important. What's also is important, if you click on each one and you're going to like the readings or passages or activities that they are giving you, they're all from a diverse background. So when they talk about the women's movement, it's women that are sharing their voices and about what happened from that era, and women who are analyzing it afterwards. And the same if you talk about civil rights, you have a lot of African Americans who their writings and their work are used as primary resources, as they should be. The same when you talk about Native Americans in the United States. So like it's all our indigenous people. It's all inclusive and it comes from those perspectives. There are lots of websites out there. Sometimes you do have to go through a rabbit hole to get to them. And I think that as we're sharing and growing, we can share with each other and hopefully add to the list just to make it easier, because sometimes we don't have like 80 hours to spend on something, right? So that was just a little dive into how I create and what would be available to you all. As soon as we get it out, Jenna will, I'm sure, share it and we'll put it on our Facebook group so that you can use those as examples. I think we can also do an email blast, right?
Yeah, yes, I will email everybody. We will, if you're new to co-op, we have like a co-op specific Facebook group that we'll probably be adding you to within the next week or two. We're finishing up this round and then we'll add you in there, but I will email all the stuff. We'll email the Google Drive, we'll email the link to the proposal form. And I was just pulling out paper to make a list of the things I need to email y'all.
Are there any questions? I know it was kind of a lot, and I think some of it, like I said, it's intuitive. You already knew this. We just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. But if you have any questions for me now or later.
I have a question.
Mhm.
As far as for the spring, since we'll be getting started in January, like I think she mentioned, can we identify what classes already potentially have been taught so we won't bore those of us who are coming in won't bore those kiddos that have learned that this current semester in the fall? Or like somebody mentioned, because my head was already in health is what I was thinking. Did somebody already talk about proposing? I don't want to invest all resources into a topic that somebody maybe already has claimed for the spring. I would rather
thing. I need to make a list of the classes that we've already done. We had in our youngest group, someone was teaching a class specifically about like food and nutrition. But that's just to the little ones. None of the other ones have gotten anything related to health really yet.
At all. So maybe what we can do is do just a class list, a brief, and if it needs to just what it was, and then the age range that got it. Because there are some things that like only one age range got, and like Ariel's she's doing the Gullah Geechee, and I was like, "Ooh, that's so cool!" But only one group got it. Because we were divided. So the other group that I think it would have been perfect for, they were doing something which is also really good that I think they could just flip. So we can put what age, which group got it, because it doesn't mean that it wouldn't be worth doing again. I think because one, everybody's going to teach it a little bit different, but also because, like you said, other kids won't be bored by it because they didn't get to do it. Like only one of the groups did the research and did the wax museum, and all the groups got to go through it, and they're like, "Oh, this is cool." So I was like, "Okay, that's something the other kids would have liked to have done, and be able to do a big presentation at the end." And I think they would be happy because they kind of saw how it worked, and they're like, "We wanted to do that." So
yeah, it makes sense to those of you who have already planned that, maybe just make adjustments for different age groups, of course, that just seems way more efficient. And especially if other groups kind of got a taste. Yeah, totally.
And we honestly, hopefully, I don't think we're going to have a huge turnover of different people, but we are adding new. So that's also something to think about. Some resources move on with the people who taught them, right? So Any other questions?
I had a question. So, we very much more unschooled than homeschooled, very child interest led. And in the past, I have taught classes in co-op, and I didn't quite outline them down to like 5 steps on every classes, but just see how it went. I taught an art class, and then I just saw what kids like to do and what they wanted to do and what they wanted to learn, and so I would have changed the next class or the next class to see what they wanted. Would that be something that was welcome to do it like that?
I think so. I think it just depends on the class and topic, right? I feel
Yeah.
like classes like art and
Can go that way.
anything that falls in that area tend to work in that way, right? If you were doing something on poetry and you could see that the
Right.
kids are really interested in a certain kind of poetry,
Right.
or it takes you that way, it makes
did
sense to do it
poetry
that
together.
way.
But
Right.
they say that. But
Mhm.
with science or physics, it's not going to work like that.
Right. And so like with the science classes, it's pretty much, although science does have creativity, it's different,
Yes.
right?
Is
I
it?
hate to say that, but scientists think outside the box. That's why we have so many cool things they invent, right?
Yeah.
But
Said the poetry we did, and the kids found they really loved like slam poetry, so we just like went with that, and we did it several times, and they just really liked it. And when I see a kids really have a lot of interest in that, I like to follow that lead.
and I think and I was like, ooh, I hope somebody could do something in music, but I think music is another area that's like the art where you see a lot of that, and it can be passion driven. We don't discourage that. Oh, sorry. I think what we're trying to do is just make it as easy on the parent teacher to be ready and prepared. Because when you do that, then it is going to be maybe more work for you from like you get excited and you're going to have to go and be like, okay, what do I need to bring with me? That's okay with us. It just depends on, what works with you. And then just also maybe just staying aligned with our subject area. So like you're doing art, you take off on a tangent in art, that makes sense, but not like to jump to a whole nother, to be like, we decided we're going to do engineering.
Right.
Although you could do art and engineering, but you know what I mean.
Okay.
Something related. Yeah.
Oh, you're muted.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Real quick. Let me go to this one and then your question. It says if we want to do we submit a joint proposal? And I would say yes if you have that already arranged, so that we know who's going to be involved, and it just makes it easier. Because if not, then we have to find a co-teacher, and so we'll have to be like matching people. So if you know who you'd be working with, yes, then we would like to see a joint proposal, and you can put both names on it. And then
if you're wanting to co-teach, you could post in the Facebook group and see if there's somebody who's interested. If you like, that might be a quick way to find somebody too.
That's what I was talking about. If somebody else is new like me and you want to divide and conquer and share ideas, I'm open to co-teaching with anybody if anybody wants a partner.
Cool.
So maybe we can chat.
See? Building bridges already. Building bridges already. Okay.
And I'd like to. Who's had a question? Oh, can I go? Oh, I would just like to add too that the co-teacher helps, especially like if you're gonna miss. So like I'm Tempe's co-teacher, and her family got COVID this week, and so because I was familiar with what she was teaching, she was able just to send me a couple of notes of what to do. Kids, I like successfully lead them with a couple of videos, and the kids made protest signs. Because I was the co-teacher, it was a smooth transition for me to like lead her class. And also I had to step in because the co-teacher and the main teacher were out this week too. So I was like helping to support, but she was kind enough to record a video the day before and just send it. And so she included questions that I could facilitate. She's like, oh, at 1:03, ask the kids, where do they think digestion starts? And so that was helpful too. So we're really trying to build community community in that way and support, because we're all homeschool moms. We all wear multiple hats. None of us get paid to do this in that way, right? So it feels good that another mom has our back and uplifts us so that the kids get the best experience possible.
Hi, I have a question. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay. So I just wanted to clarify, I know that each class needs to incorporate like culture, creativity, collaboration, critical thinking. And then there's the categories, the ingredient-based STEAM, entrepreneurship, and unit studies. We can choose from any one of those categories. It doesn't need to be all of them in one, correct? Okay. Um, this might be a really silly question. My field is therapy, so I'm not, and we're new to homeschooling. We're going to be starting in January. Um, when you say unit studies, does that mean? I guess what I'm thinking it means is like whenever you're building a curriculum, it's like the little sections in throughout the year. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about a certain like subject?
So
So
both of those would be
both of those
correct.
would be correct. Okay.
So
So
and when I say
when I
unit
say
study
unit
traditionally,
study,
I just mean like you might pick.
pick.
So you did
So
therapy,
you
you
did
might
therapy, you
pick
might pick
managing my
I'm
emotions.
gonna mute. I think for some reason when two microphones are open, it echoes back.
Okay, is that better? You could thumbs up me. Okay, so you might do like managing my emotions as a unit, and then over the weeks talk about maybe like anger management, managing my sadness. I don't know. I don't know anything about therapy, so I'm like just putting stuff out there. Okay, you might talk about how do I manage my emotions in hard situations, right? So that would be the whole unit. And I think if you talk about a typical thing, like if you were doing social studies, which is my thing, I did a unit on the Renaissance era, right? So I just talked about everything throughout the Renaissance. Did I touch on everything? No, I kind of just did an overview, right? But you can even break it down to smaller, and I could have just talked about just Harlem in the Renaissance and done a unit on just what was happening in Harlem on the in the Renaissance. So by unit, it's just like a topic, but I don't want to say just a focus topic because it can sometimes be broad, but each week connects to that broad topic. Or it can be very focused. Like you might talk about, somebody could do a unit on ants because ants are amazing, right? All the types of ants and then how they're important, right? That is just one unit on ants, which would be a little bit of a smaller unit than the broader topic, or you could say fire ants and just talk about one type of ant for the 6 weeks, different components of that. You could build an ant. You could look at an ant's reproductive life. You could look at where do they live and how do they interact, just the fire ant, right? So the unit is just your umbrella, and then how detailed it is just based on what you're trying to focus on, right? Does that make sense? And then one of the things you said at the beginning was like when you gave the list, it's like cultural. I can't even remember it. It was my own presentation. All those are just components that we want to pull from, right? Sometimes a topic may not have all 4 or 5 of those things, right? Some of them are just to be aware of like what's the perspective we're teaching something from. So that's just for us. Like our resources come from a diverse perspective, right? There might not be a diverse perspective on ants. That's a great example because that's pretty science and animal based, right? Or insect based. So what you're looking for in that is just to make sure you have accurate information that's scientific and correct, right? You might not focus on that cultural component, right? Because it's not really there. You just want to focus on it being accurate, good information, and then maybe you might be like pulling in creative things because you might have them doing models or whatever. So you might then focus on having hands-on engagement and creativity, right? So just remember, like we gave you a running list, but you're not always going to hit all the things on the list. These are just things to keep in mind with the various type of, classes that might come up that you want to teach, right? In art, you will have a lot of things that you need to make sure are culturally diverse and inclusive. just because sometimes the mainstream only looks at artists from one sect of society, right? But in science, some science things you might not have as much depending on the topic, right? So if you did bears, the different type of bears, is a koala bear even a bear? The kids love questions like that, right? You're really gonna really focus on the science in that, and then be creative and make it fun, right? How you're doing it and getting the information across. Does that make sense?
Well, I want to add to, am I echoing? No. I want to add to, as a new homeschooler, unit studies are probably like a lot of homeschool families' favorite things to do. And homeschool moms parents are obsessed with unit studies. So if you go into, I am a co-op teacher, and just ask for a general subject or search it, these moms go crazy and want to give you all the resources. And so that feels really good. And if it's something that you're thinking about, there's probably been a mom, especially in that, or a parent in that group, who's done something similar or can point you in the right directions. But yes, unit studies give a really good, like already, especially if it's pre-done, like a week by week basis of what you're going to do. A lot of unit studies focus on the topic, and then they focus on like the enrichment activity. And so you're just going to give in the, and a lot of times kids give really good engagement and like lead the discussion. But like, just because you're new to homeschooling in general, like homeschoolers love unit studies. So that would be a really good way to lean in, especially being new to the community in homeschooling in general.
Unit studies are very satisfying.
Ashley and I joke that we get more excited about the unit studies though than our kids do, but it's fun to collect.
The case for us, sure.
I also wanted to say, so our spring will be split into two halves. Like we have to figure out where we're putting the spring break because the pop-up kind of lands in there. But let us know if it's the first time you've ever taught and you really would prefer to teach the second half and you want to just, get acclimated, get your kid acclimated and teach in the second and assist in the first. That is totally fine with us. Like we want to support in that way. There was something else when Kia said that made me, I can't remember what it was. I think that might've been the main thing. Oh, and also I wanted to say, Lilia, is that we are very big on social emotional learning. Also, somehow that's not in our slideshow. I don't know, but like our home morning time at the beginning, which is like the first 30 minutes, we're usually doing some sort of social emotional learning lesson. This last week, I did one on the circle of control, and we had a hula hoop, and the kids read things, and the things that they were in their control, they put inside the circle. Were out of control. So don't feel like you don't have something to teach, because we are excited about having therapists join our crew.
Yes, I was going to say if you class on that, I was going to encourage you to include communication, because we talk about it in my family a lot. I tell my kids constantly, communication is literally the hardest thing that us as human beings do, no matter our age. And communication.
Yeah, I was trying to like brainstorm ideas. So, but I couldn't tell if like SEL fit in one of those categories or not, or if it was just like not a class, but like something, you do in the morning for like circle time or something of that sort. But communication, could be its own category or topic as well.
Like Kia said, basically, we can find lots of things that just unit study itself says. Like you can do a unit study on most anything, as she said. I'm like, you can tell how passionate you are, Kia. She comes up just like more and more ideas. Ants, bears, we can teach about everything.
I'm never teaching about animals, though. I know that was my example. It's never happening. But I would be an assistant in that class.
My son, I'm sorry, he really wants to ask a question.
Please do.
Go, babe.
What happens if someone hits someone else?
Sorry, we are coming out of, like I said, public school for a reason. So are you just talking about like behaviors?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to say we like to have conversations usually within the moment that it's happening so that we can address it. And then we collectively will have like a conversation with the parent and then explain why the behavior is harmful so that we can go back and support all of the kids. We really like a restorative justice approach because we believe in communication, that it is healing. And we all know these are kids, and we have this like really cool opportunity that we get to coach our kids in these like really difficult situations. And so we understand that perspective. And so we like to have a lot of communication. So you don't get like, you're not gonna get suspended. I hope you don't hit anybody.
But also remember what's different is that everybody's parent is there or signed to them. So a lot of behavior can be addressed by their parent right away. So whether it's you or someone else doing something, oftentimes someone's mom will address them before you even have a chance to ask them to not do something or to move, because we are all present and we're a community. So if another mom will say, hey, we don't do that. And one cool thing about being part of a homeschool co-op is we're smaller. So it's not as many busy people where everything is seen. And that's something our kids have learned. Like somebody is seeing you and is going to stop you or ask you, redirect you. That might not happen in a traditional school setting. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I think he was just more concerned about peers and stuff.
I'm going to say we haven't had any issues of hitting, so hopefully it stays that way. But yeah, especially there's lots of moms around. There's almost as many moms as kids most of the time. So yeah. Nice to meet you. I love that he was sitting listening to the whole thing.
Yeah, he was really like, oh, so this is where we're going to go and what are we going to do? And so he wanted to learn more.
When we add you into there's stuff on our Instagram. If you follow us on Instagram, I have videos of a lot of the classes. So if you want to show him through the reels and stuff, there's a lot of stuff that he can see what it looks like. And we're going to be in the same space.
Yeah, I've been showing them some of the clips to get them excited and
No, you haven't.
Prepared. Yes, I have the one.
We've been stalking the group. Don't worry.
And you know what? It's cool. It's not false advertisement. You know how sometimes you watch things and then you're like, this is, when I came, it's not as fun. It is as fun and wonderful as it looks, right? It's like, oh yeah, that was fun. So for some of you have been to lots of activities or more activities than others with our big group. And so we still encourage you to participate with the big group on the Friday activities. Well, they do things all during the week, right? Just because it's fun and it's cool and it's a different way, like field tripping, basically. It's a different way of interacting and participating. And you know that it is as fun as it looks. Like, oh yeah, that was fun, right? And we make a lot of our own fun because, you know, sometimes you get to a place and you're like, this is not at all enough for what we want it to happen. So we make our own fun as well. But tell the kids it's as much fun as it looks. And most of our kids, I would say 100% of them are excited to come back week after week and be part of co-op. So we don't have any kids who don't want to come in. Although getting kids up in the morning, even though we don't start that early, we still have to get a little fire under them. But once they get there, they're super excited. And so even as a parent, sometimes I'm like, oh, you're showing all this excitement and I have to roll you out of bed. But they enjoy it when they get there. I think we probably have hit everything.
Oh, yes, but I wanted to say I'm excited too because I get to talk to other adults and I don't have to talk to my kids, and I'm only responsible for like that 45 minutes of teaching most of the time. And so in the Cafe College area, there's the 3 classroom spaces, but they even have a lobby. And man, I've had some of the most supportive conversations just in like that downtime. Because we do have parents who were like, as what is it, hallway duty, lobby duty, to make sure kids go to the back, because the bathroom is in another building, but it's a small walkway they have to pass through. And so some parents who aren't on duty, we have like the most encouraging conversations often, because I'm like, I could have strangled my kid yesterday. I'm so glad I'm here today. And everyone, oh man, I had that week ago. And it's definitely comforting at times that we can, I know like Jennifer Edmond Jones is on here, and she made a really good conversation about us just be, Jennifer is really a really good light. Her camera's off, but she's a really good light and has a really good energy, and she always has something positive to share. And so it's nice to be in a community of women, because it's mostly women. We do have dads pop in and out sometimes just to show support, but it's nice to start building that community in that way. But so I get excited too. But yes, we can wrap it up.
Okay.
Is that right?
So-
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and I was just
Awesome.
saying, if there's no other questions, I don't want to take people's time. So we can stay on, because I think we said till 8:30. It's not quite 8:30.
I think
But
there's
if you
still-
had to go, I didn't want to keep anybody.
Yeah, okay.
Can you please just go over the 3 age groups, please? The lemons, and what are the older groups?
Oh yeah, we just named, Kia just pulled the fruit names out. I forget them. It's not. So we have lemons are the little ones, and then we have grape in the middle, and then apples are the oldest. Let me pull up my thing. What we did this last time, and we'll probably do this time too, is like we base the age of, sorry, the Alexa's going off telling my daughter it's time to take a shower. So what the littles are, what did we say? They're 7 to like, actually you might know how the age, it's up to like 8 right now.
Yeah, the average age of lemons, we say that are the littles, but the average age of our youngest group is about 8, so about 3rd grade. And so when we were thinking about planning for the spring, I was like, we need to do a good job at communicating that lemons are about a third grade level. Their average age is about 8. And I think my daughter's the youngest for lemons, and she's 7. But
we have 1 6 now. So the way I have it split up right now, we've got from 6 to 8 for the youngest. The middle group is 9, 10, and 11. And then the oldest is 11, 12, and we have a couple of 14-year-olds. So we had a lot of 10, 11, and 12-year-olds. One thing I do want to say, if you haven't come to any of our bigger events, we've set up some park days and stuff too, just for you to come and get to know us, to see, the kids who are going to be there. Most of those kind of events, the co-op kids come out pretty much in full, and then we have some extra people who aren't in co-op who come just to field trips and park days. And if you're new and I think a couple of the new kids are right on that age level in between, we basically just opened it up. Our max is 30 kids. We haven't quite hit that. And then we're splitting it up based on that so that, kids are at about the same level. But we're happy to move a kid here or there if it seems necessary, you're their parent.
Whatever makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did look at things this last time. Like, we have people, if you have 3 kids and they may not all want to they may be closer in age range, but like maybe not in skill or even socializing, they would like to move up. So we did have people who maybe moved up a little earlier than we would have, but you don't want to necessarily make them have to be in the class with their sibling who they really would like to not be in there with, right? Because we're trying to give them that opportunity to branch out. Also, I will say, so we had a little bit of changing in our grouping at that lemon. So we used to have a little bit younger, and everybody gets older, but also there's some switching. So that age range is that 7, just 7 and 8, but we may look at 7, 8, and 9, just depending on what works best and keeping our sizes good in each class. Because we really are trying to get about no more than 10, 11 kids in a room. Like, we're not going to say only 10, because if it works out that we have a kid that needs to be in an older room or a younger room, we're not going to not put them in there. but that is a good number for them to still feel like they're taking a little class, but still be small enough that it's really, can be as hands-on and engaging as you want it to be, and easier to manage, because the more kids you put in the room, the more you have to spend time on managing. Not bad things, but I mean, 20 kids in a room, they just need to be managed more than just 10 kids, right? And so it's kind of like that. So then you get that 2 to 5 adult ratio that's nice. Like, and they can still break up into groups when there's 10 people in the room, groups of 3 or 4 or 2 groups of 5, right? But not so big that you're like, And so this year we did have one class that combined the 2 upper classes together. And if that's appropriate and it's like will work, we're not opposed to those type of things happening. The lemons were never combined, but I think that there's a bigger gap in what they can do and then interests. Although those little lemons, like, they're not little, so they can really dive in, and sometimes it pushes them like to do more when they're in those competitive type of environments.
We do have a lot of kids that are pretty close in age where we're split up mainly so that they have smaller groups and have more attention and more access. So
right now,
that reminded me, I will probably email you too, Lilia, because you've got 2 that are close. We have them split. So if you have a preference one way or another, make sure you can let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my older one is like more advanced.
Okay.
So
that's how I have them right now.
Okay. Also, I know that y'all mentioned the requirement, because I watched the video for the other one, that there was a requirement to like join 2 of your gatherings before joining the co-op, I believe. However, I am still working full time until December the 17th, I think, 16th, something. So I can't join anything during the week until after then. So I don't, I know there's like one event on the weekend that we're going to attempt to join. But I don't know if there will be other things between that time frame that I can join in on, or if that'll like limit us from being able to join the co-op.
No, I think you'll be fine. And well, this does count as participation too. And this was more like required. So those who weren't able to come will probably get fussed at by me. No, I'm not gonna fuss at anybody. I'll leave that to somebody else. I'll just go over it all again because it's all fun to me, right? But we're not trying to exclude, just also to help you all become acclimated to the group and to see if it is, the environment you want to be in. And I think these kind of discussions help parents see if they want to, because it's like when you make couple friends, right? Mom has to like them, and dad, if that's your coupling, both people who are going have to like the other people, or it doesn't work, right? And so that's what we want, for moms and dads to like it, and for the kids to like it. So that's what we're trying to provide, that opportunity to see where we are, so you can be like, oh, no, y'all are a bunch of crazies, I don't want to be with you. Or, ooh, I found my tribe. So that's what we're trying to create. There probably will be activities. Jen is pretty good about like,
yeah, there may be. I mean, about around the holidays, I hadn't thought about your boys still being in school and stuff too. So we're mainly wanting to see that people want to actively participate, and also just to like ease the transition into co-op when we're starting on a weekly basis, that they've met each other, that when they show up, they feel like, and also to know where they would fit best in the groups, and even for you as a mom to see where to let us know, like, they really connected with these ones and all of these kids are in something. So, but yeah, do you agree, Ashley? Did I not make sense? You're making a funny face.
No, I hear my people in the background.
Oh.
No, but also co-op is not one size fit all. I know some of us have tried many different co-op spaces, and it's different. And so just making sure, and I think there's only a handful of like secular homeschool groups locally anyway. And so I know that's a hardship, but it is because co-ops, like you can vibe or you cannot vibe. And so that makes it easier if you've come around. And also it shows a little bit of like commitment to the group, because while we enjoy being busybodies and hosting events and everything, it's because we're doing it to build community, not for ourselves, but mostly for our kids. So it's nice that we're we're putting this time and effort into pouring not to our kids, but to everybody's kids. And we want that. And so if you're showing up, that means you guys want to be a part of our community. And so I don't know where I was going with it. I am tired, but yeah, so it was part of just like building
But no,
community.
you're not going to be excluded if you don't hit the 2. We'll count this, and yeah, and we'll try to have some more stuff, possibly even in the beginning of January. I'm going to do a vision board thing. I haven't posted that yet, but that will probably be before co-op. So I think you're good.
That was a New Year's activity, right? On New Year's, but
Yes.
that was to start the year.
Yeah. And there also will be open house. So I will say, if you haven't been able to come to the other things, definitely. I mean, we want everybody to come to that so you can see the location. The kids are familiar, because it is sort of, in some ways, co-op's long, but it's really pretty a short window. We like to try to get going on the first class period if we can.
I have a
Go ahead.
question. I was just wondering if that thing with the dates, the important dates, just kind of flew right past me, and I was trying to get the dates down. You're gonna send that out, right?
Yes, and we can just add them into the co-op group now, where I'm going to post this stuff, because pretty much everybody's coming back, so we'll just add you guys, and you can ignore or you can see how we're posting about our last 2 weeks if you don't mind that, and I'll post that stuff in there, and I'll also email you. But the dates were your proposals are due on December 1st. And I will definitely send that out in an email. We want everybody to propose at least one class, but if you have more than one that you want to put in and you can't decide, let us know. The way because we have different groups, we don't want like one group of kids to have 3 science classes or something like that. And then we'll save the proposals. If we haven't used your proposal and you come back the next semester, we could use that one for a later date. And then we're gonna choose, we'll set up the schedule by December the 8th. We wanna do it quickly so that if your class is chosen, you know right away, and you have time over the next month and a half to work on planning it. What was the other, I think the other dates that were on there were the open house, which is the week before. It's on the Wednesday before co-op starts, so the 10th. And then the first day of co-op is the 17th. And the other thing that was listed was just that your more detailed syllabus on January 7th. So that if you do have to miss, we have that information, and also just for added resources, things like that, if we need to do anything. So that's, those were the main dates, but I'll send them all to you. Did I help? I didn't really help, did I?
No, that's okay. Actually, is there a way you can pull it back up and I can just take a picture of it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me do that. Maybe that will just be super easy. I'm a calendar driven person.
All right.
And also, once Jen adds you to the group, you can post in our thought group any ideas, because I love the word thought partners. I like to think through ideas, and so, or hey, can I lean on you for a second? And you could just put it there, and anybody can add resources, because I see you just put it there, and anybody can add resources, because I see And so you can just post your class. Support you in that too.
I just realized. Linnea, that. Hold on, let me mute. Okay, can you hear me now?
I don't know what happened to my speaker, but I'll just say goodnight because something weird has happened to my phone.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say, Linnea, I looked. My daughter's birthday is January 22nd of 2012, and then it was Nancy, right? That your son is the 12th, and then Linnea's is the 2nd. So we've got kids that very, very close in age, within the same
Yeah.
day. All right.
Hello, I'm sorry I was late. Oh, there's an echo. I just wanted to say hi.
Okay, good night.
I don't know. We all need to go.